And then the fourth training module specific to VAT is the individual VAT advisory visits for businesses. And this is scheduled to commence during the first week of August of this year. Now, in terms of preparing the physical location and infrastructure, I want to say that the tax reform unit is expected to commence operations from June the 21st at the E.C. Daniel building on Keon Street. We're moving the office there so that we can begin to facilitate serving the public in this regard from that building called the E.C. Daniel building on Keon Street. It's a new building. When I was a child going to grammar school, it used to be the SPCK. You remember Juicy? Sorry. It used to be the SPCK bookstore, and now it is housing it is the location of the E.C. Daniel building there on Keon Street. Also, in terms of preparations, the preparations are on site are now being completed by contractors, and the electrical service providers are there on this particular site having it completed. VAT information systems. Both the Inland Revenue Department offices in St. Kitts and Nevis have already commenced work in ensuring that their systems are ready for the administration of VAT. Also, the upgraded IT system has already been deployed in the Inland Revenue Department, St. Kitts, and is scheduled to be launched in Nevis by the end of next month. The software developer, he is scheduled to commence the installation of the VAT module before the end of August. May I remind this Honorable House that with regard to the draft legislation, it is now in the final stages of review and is expected to be released to the public next week. Of course, the specific policy issues that will eventually find their way into the draft legislation will be brought to the Cabinet for the executive decisions to be taken on these issues next week, Wednesday. And then, of course, they would be finally prepared in draft form to be brought to the public for further discussion and consultation before anything further can happen. It is expected that the draft will be also available for its first reading by the following week. So I would say then that by the end of June, we should be able to have our draft, our first reading of the draft, goes out to the public for further public comments and debate, and then we would be on our way with regard to the VAT. Let me end the statement on the VAT by again thanking our stakeholders. I want to thank the business community for lending of their ideas, giving their views, some of which are contentious, but that's how it should be. All views should contend, and then we would be in a position to come up with what we believe is the best VAT system here in St. Kitts and Nevis. I want to thank the Hotel and Tourism Association, because from very early they took certain positions. I hope with time their positions have been revisited and they are now fully on board in helping to have their membership understand that what we're doing here is a consultative exercise that must have their views, their inputs at the end of the day. I want to thank those who have made presentations to the Tax Reform Unit. In fact, I have here a document which was presented to me only this week, the analysis of VAT impact on lottery sales, a presentation to the St. Kitts and Nevis Tax Reform Committee. This is the kind of work that we're talking about. Stakeholders must sit down, look at what we're trying to do, give us of their expertise, their experience, especially in situations where we are dealing with regional entities that have already been involved in VAT implementation in other territories in the region, and which can lend us of their experience as we are now doing it relatively late here in St. Kitts and Nevis. In fact, it's only really St. Lucia and St. Kitts and Nevis, as part of the economic union that we have, that are still to implement the VAT. St. Lucia is presently on its way with its exercise, and here in St. Kitts and Nevis, we are also on our way with our exercise. And if we are going to have truly an economic union that is going to be meaningful, going to be practical and meaningful, then harmonized tax systems like the VAT would have to be in all of our territories. And so we are a little bit late, but we are going to catch up. And we are going to catch up, hopefully, in November, if this Parliament and the people of this country allow us to do that by November of this year. May it please you, Mr. Speaker, with regard to that statement on the VAT.